Two words that a lot of people didn't think that they would hear together. Mitch Trubisky and MVP. Not NVP, but yes, MVP.
Are you saying Pan or Pam?
Yes, NFL Network analyst and former NFL defensive back Darius Butler said that Mitch Trubisky was a dark horse MVP candidate for this upcoming season.
Mitch Trubisky steps up. Mike Tomlin, he never loses. Never has a losing season. He's going to put him in a great position. MVP is only next. It's only right. Come on, it's easy. Of course.
It's not a bad take, especially when you combine the adjective dark horse to the words MVP candidate. And I think he hit the nail on the head with all of his reasoning. Steelers don't lose with Tomlin, and we have a really nice team for whoever starts at quarterback when you're talking offensive weapons, the upgraded offensive line, or a defense that should be top 3 to 5 in the league. So the main two things for Mitch's MVP candidacy are, number one, just win. Be in contention for the division title, make the playoffs, because the mainstream isn't really too high on this Steelers team. Vegas odds for the team's over-under win total is 7.5. So if those things happen, everyone's going to be like, wow, look at this Steelers team. They're in contention. No one thought they'd be here. This is without Big Ben, too, their Hall of Fame quarterback. Oh, this is crazy. And number two, if those things do happen, obviously people are going to be giving credit to the quarterback. For Mitch, you just got to put up stats. Stats good enough to at least be in the MVP conversation. Because teams win, but when you got guys like Andy Dalton or Alex Smith at the helm, it ain't the same whenever we're talking MVP. Next thing we got to consider is what is the likelihood of option 1 and option 2. Number 1, I like a lot. I think the Steelers will be good. 12-5 is my record prediction for them. Option number 2, this is where it gets interesting. So looking back on Mitch's 2018 season when he made a Pro Bowl, he threw for 24 passing touchdowns and also had 3 rushing touchdowns. This was all done in 14 games, so whenever you extrapolate that over a 17-game season, he's obviously on pace for a 30-plus touchdown season right there. But is that going to be enough considering the quarterbacks that he's going to be going up against? We got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford. So I'm thinking with the league just even being 4 years older from that 2018 season, and just the ridiculous stats that quarterbacks are putting up, Mitch is going to need at least 35-plus touchdowns, maybe even closer to 40. But the thing I do think that Mitch has in his favor is the storyline. Kind of like in the NBA, when an MVP award is given to a player not named LeBron James or Michael Jordan when they're in their prime. Because everyone knows deep down they are the most valuable players in the league, but what's the fresh storyline? Like with Russell Westbrook, the year after KD leaves for the Warriors. I mean, he's left with the Thunder on his own. He's putting up triple-doubles. No one in their right mind is taking Russell Westbrook over LeBron James, but the storyline was there. He was the most valuable player in the regular season. And I'm not saying the NFL couldn't do that with their players because you got guys like Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, dudes that haven't won the MVP award just yet, and the voters could be like, hey, it's their time. I just think Mitch has the newer story, the more compelling story if everything goes right. Because number one, you have the redemptive arc for Mitch Trubisky's career. Number two, he's on a team that a lot of the mainstream media has already written off. And number three, the quarterbacks that I've mentioned, we already know are good. With Mitch Trubisky, there's this element of surprise. Now, I do understand if you take that and say, why should I even buy into the Mitch Trubisky MVP hype train then? I get that, especially because we have, at least 12 really good to great quarterbacks out there. Whereas with Mitch, we're like, is he going to be good again? Is he going to be a full-time starter again? So I decided to look back into the NFL archives and see if there was a scenario where legitimately a guy who you never would have expected was in the MVP conversation. You look back and you're like, wait, what? How did he get mentioned? But because of storylines, circumstances, great individual performance by that player in that particular season, he was a legit MVP candidate. And for this, we do have one example, at least in recent NFL history. I don't think you're ready for this. 2008, Chad Pennington. Yes, Chad Pennington. Just look at the voting numbers. The stats aren't far off. I mean, it was definitely a different era for the position. But Pennington had the story. He was coming off an injury-plagued season with the Jets, goes to the Dolphins, who were 1-15 the season prior, But with him, they end up going 11-5 and making the playoffs. And you can even see he got more votes than Phillip Rivers and Kurt Warner, who had way better stats for that year. So don't count out the importance of story. And with Mitch, all the elements are there, and I've already discussed these. The redemptive arc for his NFL career, and also the low expectations for the Steelers. Even though these expectations come from people that don't know football, people that do know football actually have high expectations for this team because they know how good they actually can be. And if you want to take action on this Trubisky MVP buzz, well, the odds for him right now are plus 7,500. So for me, I said, fuck it, why not? Let's put some money down on Trubisky for MVP. So I put $15 down, which will profit me over $1,000. It's still a long shot, I get it, and you have a ton of quarterback talent around the league, and a lot of things have to go right. Like, if Justin Herbert just drops a 50-piece this year and the Chargers win the division, yeah, the MVP is probably going to him, no matter what Mitch does with the Steelers or how good he does. And you have, on the other hand, does Mitch even win the job? But this is what we call the Steel City hedge. Because after making the Trubisky bet, I thought, okay, if Trubisky does start the whole season, then this bet is probably valid or at least intriguing. But what if he loses the training camp battle or gets benched at like week 3? What's the pivot? And then I thought, Rookie of the Year. If Pickett gets a chance to play that early in the season, you got to think his Rookie of the Year chances are pretty decent. Actually, right now, he's sitting as the odds-on favorite at plus 700. So not as good as what Trubisky's getting for MVP, but that's for obvious reasons. So I put $10 on the plus 700 for Pickett. That gets you a profit of $70. So we kind of got all of our bases covered here if good quarterback play happens with the Steelers. But speaking of Pickett, Handstand stocks are at an all-time low. Ever since the quarterback confirmed that he's never heard of the product or used it, Handstands is scrambling. This is obviously bad news if you're Handstands, but I think is good news if you're a Steelers connoisseur, because Kenny went for the more natural, holistic approach by stretching, as opposed to going with the quick fix of using a product to increase his hand size. I think this shows really good judgment and good decision-making ability. But this isn't the only report as to why that Handstands has been on a downward spiral. Just a couple months ago, when DeAndre Hopkins got hit with his suspension for performance-enhancing substances, some were linking it to handstands.
Cardinals Pro Bowl wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins is being suspended 6 games for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing drug policy.
Yeah, man.
League sources tell ESPN.
I heard unofficially what it was that got him tested. They made him pop. Absolutely.
No, his hands are huge.
See?
Hasn't been good for handstands recently. But we'll keep you updated on the company, as they have been the only sponsor on Big Deke News. They did say they would like to buy a spot on this episode, but just can't really afford it. But also in other Steelers news, former receiver Ryan Switzer has announced his retirement. That's it for Big Deke News. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition. Let me know what you guys think of the Mitch Trubisky and the Dark Horse MVP candidacy down below in the comments. Stay chillin'. Peace.